All right, guys. Today we're going to talk about my favorite topic. Is the government stealing your money? It talks about the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. And if you felt like you weren't quite as wealthy as you were before, here's some of the reasons you might not be as wealthy as you were before One Big Beautiful Bill got passed. All right. Hello, everybody. My name's Sam. This is an episode of Info Hazard. I'm joined by my co-hosts, Phil and Danny. David's coming back next week, and so he'll be taking this seat back, fortunately. I'm leaving in good terms, as I've been told, so you may see me again in the future. But what I'm here to talk about with you guys today is taxes and the government stealing your money. Woo!
Boo.
Boo! Thank you. So one of the things is, as I was doing my taxes this year, I got more back than I thought I would, and this kind of lined up with an expectation I'd been seeing because I live in Portland, Oregon, and our taxes kind of go up. Our state park fees went up, and so in my mind, it kind of made sense. Your federal taxes go down; they give less money to the states. The state taxes are going to rise up to compensate, and so that was kind of my thesis when I was thinking of this episode. And I dug in deep, and that's not really the case. Some states raised taxes, but most didn't. But it's interesting in how states are taxing you because that is changing. And it depends on the political alignment of your state. One of the cool things is if you live in a red state, they are very hostile to income tax. They don't want to see income tax anywhere, and they don't want it to be progressive.
Yeah, that would hurt rich people, dude. You can't have that.
Damn. Are darn right. So,
or
like
the soon-to-be rich people, which I assume is most everyone who lives there, right? Like that's why they vote the way they do.
Yeah, 99% of the people in Texas are soon-to-be millionaires, so they got to make sure their taxes are low. Indiana, its flat tax rate fell to like 2.95%, but if you think it's low tax, they compensated for that with a cigarette tax and stuff like that. So a lot of the red state strategy has kind of shifted, and other states, not just red, but red states kind of have been going after the income tax and property tax, and like they call it the homestead. So if you live in Texas, you get $50,000 worth of home value knocked off your property taxes because Texas is running into the same problem California did. If you're living in your house that you bought 20 years ago and the valuation has doubled and your property taxes double, but your wages haven't, or your wages have gone down because you're retired, that house you paid off, you could get kicked out of. Now you get a fat chunk of change because you sold your house, but nobody likes to see a granny kicked out of their house. So California did it by freezing property taxes. Texas has looking to do it with the Homestead Act and doing property tax exemptions.
If only people tried to fix it by, I don't know, building more houses or something. But
there we go.
I guess that's just impossible.
It's impossible. Who could build more houses? Certainly not California, who hasn't once yet matched the population increase with housing increases since I've been alive. An interesting thing is like both states are kind of going after corporate land ownership, like companies like BlackRock or Airbnb. The red state strategy kind of in a lot of states seems to be that they do the homestead where if it's your primary home, they give you a discount on your property taxes. And for blue states, they're doing it kind of how you would expect a blue state to go. They're charging more tax money. For New York, Mom Donnie is talking about like a PED 3. I don't know if I pronounced that right, but it's pied-à-terre tax. Other states are going, if it's not your primary home, you got to pay additional taxes for it, which I think is a kind of a better way to do it than your primary home. I know it's a lot of little robbing Peter to pay Paul, but
yeah, I mean, like, so the difference is one of them is raising revenue and the other one is just kind of handing out money to current property owners.
Essentially, yes.
Also, fuck you, renters.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. There's no discount. Yeah, the blue state kind of helps renters, and the red state kind of helps property owners.
Also, if Peter has $10 billion and Paul has $5, it's okay to, rob him a little to pay Paul a bit,
Yeah.
It's actually morally correct and completely without fault to rob that dirty, filthy Peter.
Yeah,
to save that virtuous Paul.
But it kind of shows a difference in philosophies. A lot of blue states are looking to do income tax raises, and not so much on everybody, but in a millionaires thing. Massachusetts and Washington are all looking for additional income tax above a certain threshold. Like Washington's is above $1 million. So if you make over $1 million, you got to pay a 4% income tax, which is kind of nutty for Washington because one of their big claims to fame was no income tax here. It's always high property tax.
I actually have like one neat trick that's like a surefire way to get around income tax.
Don't make any income.
Get
Dude, we're on it.
You know,
Hell yeah.
Bezos really doesn't make any income. I know he gets around it that same way.
CVS made
True.
no money last year, dude. They didn't pay any taxes.
They didn't pay any taxes.
Jeff Bezos got laid off.
Well, no, I think he laid off people. They're similar. They're similar. But kind of a universal thing is revenue. Some states are hurting on revenues, some aren't. But every state is kind of looking to diversify since COVID. It's kind of income streams. Washington going with an income tax. Florida's kind of talking property taxes and sin taxes. States are going about the digital ad tax bill, where if you spent money to go to advertise to people in your state, like this is Maryland, and it's being challenged in court, so it might not become a real thing. If Amazon advertises in Maryland and they spend $1 million to do it, they got to pay Maryland a little chunk of money to get paid for that.
That's
And
interesting.
Oh, digital taxes are weird. In California, you can go in and you can buy a copy of a game that's just a code, and you got to pay sales tax on that. You buy that same game on Steam, there's no tax.
I think Steam actually does charge California sales tax now, right?
Recently, yes, but that's one of the things that's changing. Is states are getting more sophisticated in how they track digital tracking and stuff, but not all digital goods. Not all digital goods are taxed in California, just certain ones.
I'm old enough that I remember when Amazon didn't charge anybody sales tax.
I know.
But yeah.
It's when I was researching it, I did find, I know blue states love income taxes. It is one of the most volatile ways for a state to get tax dollars. It goes up, it goes down, and so it's not as steady. Florida actually has one of the most stable income taxes, or like stable tax bases, because it's sales tax. Even though it's regressive and everyone has to pay it, it doesn't fluctuate as much as income. So a lot of states are looking to diversify in kind of that way and get money from all kind of pools. One of the things is like a lot of states suffered in how they got revenue during COVID, but the federal government came in and gave the states so much money that they're set. They were okay. It was just their revenue, how they got a bunch of money, but their ways of doing it didn't really work. And so a lot of them are going into it. A big change is automobiles and how they're taxed. It's not a blue or red thing. Everybody's taxing automobiles. Or like electric vehicles and hybrids. Because if you make a fuel efficient car and it uses less gas, they get less gas per gallon. If you listened last week, you would have heard that like a lot of gas taxes are fixed on the gallon rate. If gas is $5 and you're not driving, the
roads aren't going to get repaired.
Yeah, exactly. So everybody needs to get out and drive. And some states that are not doing like EV specific tax, like EVs don't pay a gas tax. But a lot of states are getting into weird positions where they're taxing EVs and high registration rates, but they also have like EV subsidies. And so it's kind of, all right, we'll pay you to buy the car, but then we'll charge you a higher fee to drive because you got to pay to be on the roads. Or some states are doing it not by EV, but it kind of hurts the EV is by weight.
Yeah, EVs are significantly heavier than gas cars, generally speaking.
All right. So here's the thing. I looked at a Toyota Corolla and a Tesla Model 3. Would you guess? Okay, I'm gonna say 20%, 30%, 40%. What percentage do you guys think the Tesla is heavier than the Corolla? 20%, 30%, 40%.
40. I'll just guess 40.
I'm gonna say 30.
40? 31%.
Okay.
Now you take that same Tesla Model 3 and you compare it to a Ford F-150 truck. 30%, 30%, 40%. How much heavier is the F-150 over the Tesla 3?
I'm going to guess 20%.
I'll do 40 again.
It's 24%.
Okay.
Which was
out, Phil.
Yeah, which is kind
I
of
don't know.
crazy to me.
Go big or go home. I'm already home,
Because-
so might as well go big.
Like having a Tesla 3 being like that, they weigh that much more. The Tesla weighs 900 pounds more than the Corolla, and the F-150 weighs about 900 pounds more than the Tesla. And so if you do a weight tax on vehicles, that's more damaging the road. It makes a lot of logical sense. But if you're a blue state and you don't want to, if an EV tax is unpopular, it's a lot easier to say, hey, we're just taxing based on weight. Well, everybody can logically understand that. And so that's...
It does have like, does it does it like track? Do heavier vehicles always cause more damage to the road?
Yeah. The big one you see it is like the big rigs, like they cause more damage. So as you go
Like,
up,
yeah. Do they always cause more damage? Probably not always, but in general,
Well,
yes.
they just cause more wear and tear on the asphalt, and like heavier vehicles just wear out the asphalt quicker. So it's not like
But
you're
like,
getting a
I imagine it's like, like an elephant's foot, right? It's not putting as much pressure on the ground because of the way the weight is distributed across the foot. Like a human wearing high heel shoes is putting more pressure on the ground than an elephant is. So like, is there a car equivalent of that where there's like really
That-
dense cars with skinny tires?
Okay, an 80,000 pound 18-wheeler compared to a 4,000 pound passenger car, the truck would cause 160,000 times more road damage than that.
yeah, the weight stuff doesn't really make sense. This should be that's that is crazy.
Yeah, 4th power, dude, is pretty big. It's more than cubed.
I mean, it's almost like we should get some trains and ships in there instead of shipping all our goods by truck. Am I right? Let's go short sea container shipping.
Or hovercrafts, dude. That's what we need.
Yeah, it really is like the sedans and stuff are probably subsidizing the trucks or the trucking industry
Yeah.
at that point. Somebody that, has more information on trucks and how much they cost to register, let us know in the comments if that's wildly off base.
It's probably bringing more value to the road, though, as well. In terms of like business
we need to
done.
eat stuff from
Yeah.
trucks.
That's fair. Without the trucks, we'd be in trouble. Without me driving to Seattle to look for work, I would take the Amtrak and it would take like 2 more hours. All right. So one of the other ways that you might be noticing the government stealing your money is that big news-making taxes, no politician wants them. And so a lot of the times what they're doing is they're cutting it and making the local cities and counties come up with the funding. And they'll go to them and say like, hey, our funding's short. We're not giving you money for schools or Medicaid, and whatever you guys want to fill in, you can. Whatever you can't, get shut down. And they're making it more of a personal like levy or bond situation that individual cities and counties have to pull out. You may have noticed some of this stuff in your ballots that are coming up and politicians are talking about. It'll be probably something boring like the school's filled with asbestos and the roof's about to fall in. We need to repair it and we don't have any money. Please pass this levy or all your kids get lung cancer. And then
Yep.
nobody votes for
It
it.
happens pretty much every year as
Yeah.
various budget shortfalls caused by the federal government.
But I do have one last local and state tax fun fact is local sales tax fell 1.3% in real terms, while local personal income taxes rose 1.4%, and local corporate income taxes rose 9.7%. I do have property taxes keep rising, which makes sense because property keeps going up in value. The other thing I forgot to mention is a lot of states are doing corporate taxes. They're figuring a way to make corporations pay some small amount, but nobody wants to make the corporations pay a lot because all the states are kind of in competition with one another to attract business. Amazon's like, we have a fulfillment center. We'll put it to whoever gives us the best subsidy. And then all the states kind of like undercut each other. So nobody gets a good deal. Now, when you're talking about state taxes, there's 2 really big 800-pound gorillas in the room. And I'm going to talk about the first one. So the federal government gives states about a third of their total budget. I looked up for Oregon, check your own state, and roughly a third of what the state's budget is made up comes from the federal government. About half of that the Fed gives each state is Medicaid. And when you're talking about the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, one of the big cuts that they made was they're giving $100 billion less a year in Medicaid spending to the state's total. And it's kind of nutty because
What percentage of an Iran war is that?
I think that it's
like
maybe
five
36.
days of war, I think.
Oh, I was going to go like 36, 48 hours. I think they'd like change the missiles out. Because you gotta think of the cost of moving the missiles over there, the aircraft carrier, like
Yeah.
all
Well,
that.
the figure I saw was $20 billion a day for the Iran war
Okay.
so far.
20
So-
billion. So we got there past 5.5 days. Done. But a third of every state's budget is roughly Medicaid. And that is healthcare for 20% of Americans. And that was what we cut. That's what the One Big Beautiful Bill cut. The federal government contributes about $1 trillion a year to state budgets, and they cut about $100 billion from that trillion. So a lot of this and a lot of the Medicaid places that are dependent on Medicaid are rural hospitals and clinics. 2024, hospital closures outpaced opening in rural areas from 2017 to 2023. And Medicaid wasn't a great source of funding for these places, but it was funding, and it was a lot of the rural areas I was reading about, they don't have in urban areas, you have more of a mix of, you have somebody that has a career job, they have health insurance, they go to the hospital, the insurance covers it. A lot of these places in the rural areas, it's just Medicaid and Medicare. If the funding dries up for that, then the hospital just closes. And
Or alternatively, they're
Yeah.
closing because people are just getting less sick.
That's a
Yeah,
great
we're all
question.
healthy now that RFK is our health and human secretary, dude.
So
It's
que-
possible.
So a question I had for the two of you is, I feel like personally, hospitals have a moral obligation. If I get stabbed, I don't want the first question to be like, what insurance do you have as I'm bleeding out in their ER? I feel like both of you would agree with that.
I think
Yep,
that
definitely.
they are both public good, they serve a public good, and they should be public good. That is to say that they should be available to all, regardless of one's ability to pay for them.
Okay. Because here's the second question, and this is where we're getting into the heart. Does the government have an obligation to provide a hospital?
Just,
I mean,
I mean,
I
Because-
would say
no,
yes.
like legally, currently, no, but also, like, I think they should.
So I kind of disagree, because, one of the things I thought is, I don't think the federal government can sentence a doctor to like a term in a hospital. They can't go to a doctor. You have to work in this hospital or else. There may be like, you might live in the rural middle of nowhere and you just can't get a doctor or a nurse to come out there. They're trained professionals. Why would they be there? So I think tasking the federal government with making sure that every citizen, I view it as U.S. Postal Service, sure, it's on someone's route, make sure they get their mail. They've been able to do that. But I don't think the federal government can provide service to everybody, because we just don't have the population density in certain parts.
Yeah, but they could provide the service to 95% of people without being too insane. Like, it would cost less than the current system.
If we were mandating this from the top down, yeah, there would be less desirable positions, I guess, but there are currently less desirable positions, and those places still get staffed. There are ways to incentivize people to go places. I just don't think it's an issue that couldn't be resolved.
The current standard of care we have, it's taking up 30% of the state's budget. I forget how much Medicaid and Medicare are taking up of the federal, but it's, I think, around 25 to 30%. Like, how much are you as a society willing to dedicate to healthcare costs?
I mean, it's more like, how much can insurance soak us for?
Well, I mean, it's just like in the U.S.
Do I get to decide?
Sure. Like,
Yeah, well then those insurance companies are gone, baby.
Yeah, be a little-
They're almost as poisonous to our society as our bloated defense budget.
But okay, let's be a little more realistic, because Schumer isn't talking single payer. The guy in the House isn't talking single payer. Nobody on the Republican side is talking single payer. Like, what we have as a healthcare system is what we're going to have in the next 10 years. How much would you want your state? Because like, it's about $100 billion a year. How much would you want your state to raise taxes to cover that?
As much as it takes.
So if we had it become 40, 50% of the total budget, like, are we going to cut education? Like, what are you willing to lose to provide healthcare or the opportunity for healthcare for everyone?
Cops.
Rich people? I mean, they can tax rich people.
I mean, some
Yeah.
states are doing it, but this is kind of a large gap in funding.
I mean, really, the problem is, like, states can't do anything to solve it because we're stuck with this medical insurance system that's like a huge, giant fucking scam.
Yes. I mean, we pay an incredible amount of money we pay in healthcare costs more than any other developed country in the world.
I think you're right. I think there isn't much we can realistically do with it if we're not talking about a single payer system. That's why I would like to talk about a single payer system, because I think we can't solve problems we're not willing to solve,
It would
I think-
cost less tax money, dude. Like, how can people be against this shit? It's unbelievable.
All right. So what I'm getting at is we can't fix the problem we have except single payer healthcare, which I agree with. I think the U.S. pays way too much, and if we paid the money we pay today to single payer healthcare, I think we would have much better service.
But health insurance executives and shareholders,
Mhm.
dude, those poor babies.
Kaiser Permanente's got to make money. But yeah, as of
And all the people who work in the insurance industry, they can just vibe code, baby.
They can vibe code.
Yeah, gotta get into AI.
Or they can become coal miners too.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, one last fact about the rural hospital. 41% of rural hospitals are currently operating at a loss. 417 are flagged as vulnerable to closure by Chartis, which is a medical chart thing. And after a rural hospital closes, inpatient mortality in the surrounding community increases by 8.7%. So, this was a
how?
big thing.
How do they get to be inpatients if there's no hospital to go to?
Well,
They're
average ambulance transport time jumps from 14 to 25 minutes. So there's even if there's another hospital in the area, taking 9 minutes or 20 minutes to get there is still that can be life and death.
Yeah. Probably one of my more callous jokes I've ever made, but yeah.
But yeah, I remember that in like 2012, like the arguments against ACA, like the government panels determine who lives and dies. And it's like, okay, well, we might not have that on an individual level, but we are having that on like a county and region level.
It just means like the corporation is the one running the death panels instead of the government, dude. That's the only difference.
Now it seems like one of the issues is more Americans, like you might have health insurance or some kind of it, but you might not have a hospital or an emergency room to get to. So one last thing, we ran with the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. We're running a $1.8 deficit.
$1.8 trillion.
$1.8 trillion deficit.
Yeah.
And with our big tax cut, everybody gets more money. We increase spending, and we cut taxes and increase spending. So
fiscal conservatism, dude.
And this is the other 800-pound gorilla in the room.
Also, who is we in this? We get more money.
People.
Who gets more money from this bill? Because there was one other thing that was tied to this bill around this time, and that was the tariffs, which have been declared illegal. But the money, nobody's gotten their money back. It's still, who knows what's going to happen to it. And so I have an Excel sheet where running the biggest deficit we ever did. We did a big tax cut, and we still have the same deficit. When you look at the tax cut everybody got, one of the lines is the tax cut for the majority of Americans. For 70% of Americans, the tax cut put more dollars in your pocket. It could have ranged from $20 on average to $13,000, depending on how much money you made. Which, not the worst. These are from CBO, so Congress itself. These are their things they're listing. If you are below the top 30%, you're losing to $1,200 a year. So from our poorest Americans, we take $1,200. To our richest Americans, we give upwards of $13,000 in this tax cut because SNAP got cut, Medicaid got cut, loss of benefits. But there's one factor that was talked about a lot at the same time, another revenue method that would make up for the taxes, and that was the tariffs. Now, if you include the inflationary aspect of the tariffs, it becomes a lot more interesting. If you include that, only 30% of Americans benefited from the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. And it is a very tiny amount that you benefited because the tariffs caused a lot of inflation. You had to pay a lot more money, and your savings just weren't that big off the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. Anyways, if you bought a car, your tariffs probably made your car cost more than what you would have saved. If your household makes $171,000 a year, your total positive return from the tariffs in the One Big Beautiful Bill Act is $170 positive.
Ooh, worth burning the country down for, dude.
If you're in the top 20%, $830. If you're in the top 10, your average return, $9,600. I found this hilarious because a lot of the stuff I heard was, hey, you're making all this money. This is good for the majority of Americans. It will hurt the poor people. But if you're a hardworking American with a job, you're not going to be affected by this bill. You'll get more money in your pocket. That was some stuff I'd heard. You can be callous about it, but if you have something that benefits the majority of Americans, that's a lot easier to sell. If you're saying,
I mean, it is pretty fucked. There's like, it will hurt, like it will benefit the rich and hurt the poor. Like I just morally can't get behind, but some people are callous.
It's not just benefits the rich or it's the poor. What they sold us and what we saw was it benefits everybody but the poor. It benefits the middle class. It benefits the rich. Everybody's making money.
It should be noted that it does hurt the poor.
Yes, it does hurt the poor.
It is cutting programs from the poor.
It cuts programs from
the poor. It kills poor people.
Yes,
Like
it
you
kills.
take away
They don't
food and
get food or
Medicare.
healthcare.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Phil.
No, that's it.
All right.
It does
Yeah.
kill these people.
So, but that's what I was sold. We kill poor people, but everybody gets more money. I mean, this is America. That's just kind of what we do.
I mean, that's like our mission statement right there, almost.
But when you factor in the tariffs, this isn't everyone wins. This is you have to make, let's see, $517,000. Now, I got this number from the budget lab of Yale, and Yale just runs this for funsies. If you are not making $517,000, you're not benefiting from this like four figures. You're in like the hundreds. It is supremely nutty. Well, I mean, it might be like if you're in the top 15, averages and stuff. But like even then, top 20% of Americans make some money. But this is this is strictly a bill like the economic policies of Trump that hurt the poor, don't help the middle class, and all the benefits are towards the top 20% of Americans. And
but like barely. Like you have to get into the actual like the people who like spent the campaign money to get Trump elected to actually see like any real benefit, right? And even then they're not even getting they're not even paying that much taxes, so it's like they're not even getting that much benefit from getting their taxes cut.
So if you're making $500,000 and you get your $9,600 check back, which is okay, good for you. What are you gonna do? Buy the next class up on BMW, or a Mercedes A class instead of a B class? Great.
Yeah, they're gonna pay for like maybe a fraction of one first class ticket.
Yeah.
They're gonna buy a bottle of champagne.
You are taking that money, or how the bill works is the people paying for that like bottle of champagne are the poorest family is paying. The poorest bottom 10% is paying $2,100 and lost in the cost of the one big beautiful bill and the tariffs.
Yeah, but hey, at least Bezos could rent out Venice for his wedding.
Yeah, that's just the
money. The fun part is they're planning more.
They're planning more.
Trump said we can't do things like daycare, we can't do Medicare anymore because we have a war to fight.
So one of the fun things is we're paying like $800 to $900 billion a year. They're not talking about raising taxes or revenue anymore, but they are talking about raising the military budget to $1.5 trillion is what Donald Trump's going to ask in 2027.
Just one deficit.
Talking for $500 billion more. And we have no way to pay for it. We have no revenue streams. We're cutting taxes. This is
we have no way to pay for it, dude. You just fire up the money printer.
Yeah. This is kind of what I realized is we're borrowing huge amounts of money. We're going to borrow more, and we're cutting taxes on the rich to not even save any money.
I mean, he's obviously got some plan. I mean, this isn't someone who has famously had dozens of bankruptcies, right?
But my last fun fact is because all this is debatable. Is the government stealing your money? If you're in the bottom 80%, you're probably down a little bit over the year, or you might be down a lot. And you might say that, yes, the government's stealing my money. But it's like a taxi woo-woo way, sovereign citizen. So back in 2022, 2023, someone from the IRS leaked Donald Trump's tax records and showed that he wasn't very wealthy. Lawyers for President Donald Trump are engaged with discussions with the IRS and the Treasury Department because the IRS has agreed to settle with President Donald Trump over these allegations, or over the $10 billion. He appointed a guy to the IRS, fired him, and he had appointed Scott Bessent to Treasury before. Scott Bessent is running the Treasury and the IRS. I'm not sure why the last guy got fired. It might be because he said no to giving Trump $10 billion. But the guy determining what the IRS is going to settle for is the guy that Trump hired to do that.
And yet Trump voters just somehow won't give a shit, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, take a look at our comments section. It's like, it's actually a good thing.
Yeah, if you're a Trump voter, defend this shit.
So one last little thing. There is no bearing to the lawsuit because you have 2 years to challenge this once you're aware that the IRS did something funky with you at the statute of limitations. Well, it's 2026. The statute of limitations was happened in 2022. The statute of limitations is over. Like there is no standing for this lawsuit. It's just IRS is just folding, and because Trump controls who runs the IRS. And
yes, so because Trump hired someone specifically to extract this money from the American taxpayer.
Yeah. So To finally sum it up, is the government stealing your money? And the answer is it doesn't matter if you're in the top 1%. Yes, in some way, by hook or crook, they're taking your dollars.
And not just the government, specifically the president is stealing your money.
Specific men in specific offices are taking your money. But yeah, if you think that you like having your money stolen, leave a comment or something in the comments telling me how much you support Donald Trump suing the IRS and getting his $10 billion.
Yeah. Make sure to use the phrase golden age in your response.
But yeah, that's all I got for tonight, guys. This has been another great episode of the Info Hazards podcast. This is my last one. I'm looking forward to David coming back because looking all this stuff up.
We'll have you back on.
I'll come back on as a guest guy.
Yeah.
If you want Sam to come back really soon, leave a comment.
Yeah, let us know. Tell us which is your least favorite host. No, don't do that. Don't do that. Our egos are so fragile. Go back to insulting our masculinity. That's what we're more comfortable with. And we'll catch you on another... Wait, we'll catch you on... money stealing episode of the Info Hazard podcast. Bye, everybody.